Hi, good morning, everyone. At the beginning of class, I asked you to give me your reactions to 6 pieces of art. Many of you told me whether you liked the work or not, whether you understood it, how you felt about it, and all this is a good starting point because art should evoke a response in you. However, today I'm going to give you a language that will allow you to look at art in a deeper way, more closely, more carefully, more systematically. I will show you how to analyze creative works. In other words, how to take apart art to its basic elements, such as line and shape. I will show you how to talk about the lines and shapes and how to talk about how these elements evoke responses or feelings in us. After this lecture, you will be able to say not only that you like a work, but you'll be able to explain why you like it. This way of looking or observing art is called directed looking. It's a strategy that will help you to describe and analyze how you feel about a creative work. Directed looking has 3 categories of observation. The first is physical elements, then we have subject matter, and composition. So I'm going to talk about these 3 elements today. Let's look at physical elements. Physical elements includes the size of the work, such as the height and the width. Also includes the material, whether it's paint or clay or wood or stone, and the texture. Is it smooth, shiny, rough, or heavy? And finally, dimension. Is it 2-dimensional or is it a 3-dimensional piece? For instance, we can see Fran Klein's work is a painting. And in fact, it's a huge painting. It's actually the size of this room. It's 6 feet by 9 feet. But now take a look at Callahan's work. Callahan's work is a photograph. Does that surprise you? Callahan's photo is actually very small. It's only 3 by 4 inches. The size of the work can actually create an impact on us. Imagine your reaction if you saw Franz Klein's huge painting or Callahan's small photograph. How would that affect you? The texture also affects us. For instance, Klein actually used pencil for his painting. How does that affect the texture? Is it smooth and shiny, or is it rough or heavy? Now let's take a look at subject matter. The subject matter includes looking at what the work is about. Last week, we talked about using the what, how, why strategy to describe what we see in creative works and make interpretations about the deeper meaning. So let's take a look at Van Gogh's Hospital Corridor at St. Remy. We can see this is a picture of a hospital hallway. However, the subject matter is not simply a hall. The viewer can feel the darkness and the endlessness of the hall. Perhaps the subject matter is fear and confusion. What about Lang's photo? We can see that the subject matter isn't just about mothers and children. By looking at their expressions, we can see something deeper. Maybe it's about poverty. Maybe it's about the strength of women. Maybe it's about the strength and pride necessary to survive poverty. Now let's take a look at the composition. So analyzing the composition means that we pay attention to the line and shape and how these lines and shapes are arranged to evoke a response in the viewer. Are the lines short and choppy? Are they heavy or light? Notice the difference between the Klein and the Callahan. One is heavy and powerful, and the other is delicate and gentle. Do you see that? Sometimes lines are obvious, and sometimes they're hidden. The hidden lines we call implied lines. In the Hopper painting, there are strong, clear, horizontal and vertical lines. And in the Van Gogh painting, the horizontal tops of the columns line up with the little door at the back of the painting. This line, you can see, isn't drawn, but it moves our eye to the door. This is an implied line. In the Lang photo, there are strong implied diagonal lines along the woman's arm and up to her face. This line puts the focus on the woman's face and her expression. Also, you can ask, what are the shapes in the artwork? How are they arranged? How do they relate to one another? Do they touch? Do they overlap? Lang's photo seems to contain a triangle. This is overlapped by the shapes created by the children. This seems to express the feeling of pressure weighing on her. She appears stressed or sad. The Hopper painting is full of rectangles and squares, and the rhythm is very regular. Maybe this is a symbol for the regular life at this location. It seems just regular. Maybe it indicates that it's boring. So today we've talked about a way to look at art called directed looking. Directed looking focuses on 3 categories of observation: the physical elements. This is the material the work is made from, the size and the texture of it. Then there's the subject matter, which is describing what we see in the work. Then finally we analyze the composition, which includes the organization of the lines and shapes in a work. So just to add that composition looks at the obvious lines and the implied lines. It looks at shapes and how they interact. It also looks at focal points. Focal points are where your eye naturally goes to first. So when we talk about composition, we talk about shapes and lines that we can see, but also the lines and shapes that are invisible to the eye. Well, I hope this talk has given you a sense of how to look at art. See you all next week.